Good evening. I am Ann Mosikowski, President of the League of Women Voters of Central Delaware County. And on behalf of our voter services team, I welcome you to this candidate forum for the Pennsylvania House of Representatives 159th District. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which neither supports or opposes candidates. The League is dedicated to ensuring that all eligible voters have the opportunity and the information to exercise their right to vote. The League is an organization fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and practice. We encourage that the informed and active participation of citizens in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. Tonight, we are using a Zoom format that is being live streamed. The entire forum is being recorded for use in its entirety. It may not be used in excerpted form for partisan political advantage. You can watch it on demand at the League of Women Voters of Delaware County YouTube channel, and it will be posted on our website, LWV-CDC.org. Our moderator for this evening is Roberta Winters, member of the League of Women Voters. Roberta will review the rules and candidate forum format, plus introduce the candidates. Roberta.
Thank you, Ann, and good evening. I am your moderator, Roberta Winters of the League of Women Voters, and I'd like to welcome our candidates for the 179th Legislative District who are with us tonight. They are Carol Kazeem and Ruth Moton. I would also like to remind you, as Ann has previously stated, that no portion of this program may be excerpted or used without the permission of the League of Women Voters. And now I want to go over the agreed format that the candidates will be following. Each candidate will provide an opening statement of 1 minute and a closing statement of 2 minutes. After opening statements, questions will be asked, many that address the issues submitted by those who registered for this event. Candidates will have 90 seconds to answer each of the questions asked. In addition, they have 5 chits worth 30 seconds to use as they wish, except to add to the opening or closing. The candidate who responds first to a question will alternate. Carol Kazeem, drew the position to provide her opening statement first. Ms. Kazeem.
Hello, my name is Carol Kazeem, and I'm the Democratic nominee running for the 159th District, and I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for having me here today and for your line of service. Through my line of service, working in the healthcare industry for over 10 years, as a mental health specialist, as a trauma-informed outreach worker, and even as a public advocate, I've seen the disparities and the struggles from residents trying to be able to pay medical services, to be able to see medical attention, and even the hears and the cries and tears of many grieving parents that were burying their children. And with that, I really want to take that line of service from the front lines and continue that mission on to Harrisburg to be your next state representative. I look forward to answering everyone's question here this evening, and thank you very much.
Now, Ms. Moton.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Moton, candidate for PA House of the 159th Legislative District. I am a fighter. I am a fighter who has fought my way out of homelessness to home ownership. I'm a business owner. I fight for my neighbors and my neighborhood on a daily basis as a committee person. I have fought alongside Chester Water Authority for the past 5 years. I fight for the freedom for each and every one of us to choose what is best for ourselves and our families. These are just to name a few, but definitely that fighting spirit, the tenacity, that is what I have to bring to the 159th Legislative District. Chester politicians and policies have destroyed the city of Chester. It is time for change, and it's time for new policies. Thank you.
Now for our first question. Ms. Kazeem, if you had a magic wand, what would be the first thing you would like to change in the 159th district and why?
Tough question, being as though there's so many issues on the 159th. If I had a magic wand, the first thing I would love to change is the lives of our children, the gun violence. They're our future. And as I said before, I am tired of really seeing the tears and hearing the cries of our so many parents that are burying their children. And that should not be normalized, nor that should not be.
Ms. Moton.
And I agree, our children are 100% of our future. So if we were to start, the earlier the better. I would go back to education. Start them the earlier the better, and provide the proper education so that through their self-esteem and their ability to take care of themselves, to have more pride, all of us, to have pride in ourselves, to aid in deterring the crime that happens. And definitely as far as Chester Water Authority, because in this day and time, we cannot afford to pay any more than we are already paying.
Now this question is for Ms. Moton first. Education is an important issue for our children and our future. Charter schools are educational options that are funded by public tax dollars and are alternatives to public schools. They may or may not have the same rules, regulations, or standards as traditional public schools. Why or why not do you think charter schools are worth supporting?
Charter schools are worth supporting as long as they are doing the job as far as providing a proper education to our children. So as long as that is the case, then I have no problem with charter school at all whatsoever. But at the same time, school choice and parents, again, having responsibility and taking and having the control and a choice as far as what type of education that their children are to have. I'm not anti charter school, but right now they're failing our children. The charter schools in the city of Chester, second grade is equivalent to kindergarten in regular public school at Boothwyn Elementary. That should not be. Our children are not dumb, and we need to stop treating them as such.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Kazeem.
Can you repeat the question, please?
You're muted, Roberta.
Education is an important issue for our children and our future. Charter schools are educational options that are funded by public tax dollars and are alternatives to public schools. They may or may not have the same rules, regulations, or standards as traditional public schools. Why or why not do you think charter schools are worth supporting?
I do believe in parents' choice. As far as the charter schools go, I believe that accountability needs to be put in place on a state level as far as cap and how many children it can take out of the district, because it does take away from a parent's choice. And that's what we have seen, is that so many choices have been taken from parents as we've seen expansion of the charter schools located primarily in the city of Chester. And as far as it go, again, I believe in parents' choice, but we do need to support our public school system as well.
Now, Ms. Kazeem, many residents in your district need access to good food and at an affordable price. What will your role be in attracting and keeping supermarkets in Chester?
My role will be advocating and speaking with many business owners, also building on the business wealth too, primarily in the 159th. There are many talents here There are many people that works in the food industry, and just being able to provide the resources and bring in the funding to be able to help them expand on that will be very, very, very much beneficial to the community here, and seeing that also be spread back into the community. Also partnering with many different organizations and resources that do supply those food chains, such as Share Food Program, and also even other organization primarily that focuses here in Delaware County and through the food pantries as well. But most of all, just making sure that we do have the equity to make sure that food is supplied here ongoing. And the supermarket is definitely a way to go. But most of all, as I stated before, bringing that back into our community and making sure that people have the opportunity to be the supplier of that chain here.
Thank you, Ms. Moton.
In the 159th Legislative District, there are not many choices as far as supermarkets in order to shop. So we always have to go outside of our district in order to have more of a selection, even as far as the choices of food that we purchase. We all may want to eat healthier. Unfortunately, with the policies that are in place and with inflation, foods that aren't so good for us are the cheapest ones out there. But yes, continuing to partner with the programs that are already in place that are providing what is needed and necessary for all of us, but definitely our children, to get the necessary nutrients that they need. But there's WIC, there's the pantries and others that, Ms. Kazeem mentioned, which are a valuable asset in this day and time with inflation and the cost of foods and goods and services that they are right now.
Thank you. Ms. Moton, constituent services, or the help representatives provide to those who live in the district, are important to those whom you will serve. These include things like notarizing important papers, getting a SEPTA card, accessing your health care, or providing assistance for veterans. How would you increase your visibility throughout the district to help other citizens in a better way so that you might serve them?
Well, as far as the same way that I am a part of the community and I have remained a part of the community on a daily basis, continue to do that. Satellite services or centers throughout in every municipality and entity in the 159th district to make sure that our seniors and those who aren't able to travel, any great distance to get and utilize the services that they need. But definitely those are services, those are things that should be in place on a daily basis.
Kazeem.
As a public advocate, I know that too well. The first and foremost is making sure that we have a staff that's put in place that's dedicated and consistent and also passionate to provide that constituent services work. Secondly, meeting them where they at, meeting their needs, whether it's going directly to a senior home, whether it's going to their public library, whether it's them coming into the office, and just making sure that whatever situation that they have, we just try to supply the best services for them. And also, most of all, just advocating around their needs in Harrisburg as well, and making sure that those issues are also brought to the House floor ongoing, so that they know that not only are we going to work on it locally, but we're going to take it further into the House floor.
Next, economic development is vital to this region. People need jobs and good paying jobs. What will you do to help the 159th district become an attractive place of new business and investment? Ms. Kazeem.
Particularly in the 159th, it's a blue collar working family. And what I would love to do is continue to support those small businesses expand. Secondly, we would need to really start opening up more businesses, taking on more properties to be able to obtain more resources and funding to many individuals that are not able to receive it, especially particularly that are minorities. And another way that we can actually even expand on job is definitely supporting our local unions that actually do try to take in from the residents that are locally in the community and try to be able to offer them training and more job skills. So those right there, I believe, would also attract it, and definitely partnering once again with other small local business owners and trying to be able to provide more wages and jobs for other individuals that are within local the community.
Ms. Moton.
As a realtor, I know and I see that from Marcus Hook to Eddystone, the opportunities are endless with us having the waterfront that runs throughout. There are so many different possibilities for growth. Yes, with the blue collar, but we can revitalize this entire area, this entire part of Delaware County, this entire part in the state of Pennsylvania by utilizing the beautiful resources that we have right there in front of us. Small businesses are the backbone of the community. So whatever support that they need, education, be there to support and to provide and give them exactly just that. But in the 159th district, we are at a pivotal place. The opportunities are endless. Plans have been in place. All we have to do is to implement them. And as an area manager for a multi-million-dollar company in the Midwest, my specialty was distressed locations. So I have the experience and I know what it takes in order to take something, to make something from nothing. And I'm excited about doing that.
Next, Ms. Moton. In addition to Chester City, your district includes townships and smaller boroughs such as Parkside.
Excuse me, Roberta. Carol had a chit she wanted to use.
I'm sorry, Carol, I didn't see it. Go right ahead.
If you, yeah.
I just wanted to add back into my response for my chip is entrepreneurship. So even when with us revitalizing, we want to make sure that we also keep it within as well. So it gives everybody the opportunity for generational wealth. So entrepreneurship through workshops would also help expand on jobs here, particularly in this community. And as far as the waterfront, I want to say that the best way that we can actually even revitalize and continue on is also in fighting the environmental justice that we see that actually takes upon that waterfront and keeps the businesses away too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, I appreciate your sharing your chit and getting an extra time. Now, Ms. Moton,
Yes.
in addition to Chester City, your district includes townships and smaller boroughs such as Parkside. How will you make sure that you are able to address the needs of these areas?
Again, being a part of the community, listening to the residents, hearing what they have to say is the only way that anyone can do and be effective in the position. You heard me mention about Chester Water Authority. Eddystone, they don't have Chester Water Authority. So that doesn't matter to them. As was forestated earlier, meeting people where they are, knowing the people, knowing the district, listening to them, communicating in by whichever means people receive, give information the best, be it form, a Zoom forum, paper, print, seniors, if they're not computer savvy, they can come out, a meet and greet, whatever it is, to make sure that the communication and the transparency and the accountability is there.
Ms. Kazeem.
Simply partnering with local organizations, particularly in each municipality. Another thing that I currently do now and would love to continue to do is try to at least attend the city council meetings, the borough meetings, the township meetings, and just try to connect and see what is being brought forward and what the residents need are, or even what their agenda is attending also their school board meetings as well. That particularly helps me be able to identify what the residents and what the township or the borough, what their needs are, because every demographic that we are representing in the 159th is particularly different. But again, if we can partner with those local organizations and try to attend those meetings, and again, just try to meet them where they're at by just going simply in there, whether it's their public library, attending their events, attending festivals, trying to make sure we support everyone across the 159th. That right there, I believe, is how I can be able to execute the position. And if I'm in Harrisburg at the time, definitely making sure, as I stated before, we have a staff that is accessible to do that particular job.
Next, Ms. Kazeem. Areas within the 159th district
Roberta, I'm sorry. Ruth would like to use
Oh,
it.
sorry, Ruth. I got to the question before I got to you. Go for it, Ruth.
That's okay. And I was saying the biggest thing to do, ask them what their concerns are. Just ask them and listen. That's all I want to add.
Thank you, Ms. Moton. Now, this question is going back to Ms. Kazeem. Areas within the 159th district are environmental justice zones. These are neighborhoods or communities that have a large number of persons of color and or who live below the poverty line. Additionally, those living here experience a significantly lower quality of life because of the problems created by environmental hazards such as waste dumps and polluting industries. What programs and policies will you support and or initiate to make your district one where people will want to come to live, work, and play?
Or first off, addressing the environmental racism that is taking place in the 159th, making sure that we're fighting off the incinerator that is one of the largest polluters in the United States, that is particularly there in the 159th, that do affect Chester City and also Trainer. Another thing I would love to see is green jobs, really looking into great infrastructure. Once we can start looking more into that, then we can start progressing and moving forward into seeing the more air quality be improved and to see our living conditions be improved as well. Those are particularly the few just issues that I would like to see, but definitely most of all, just investing into green jobs around green infrastructure, particularly in the 159th. But we cannot do that until we actually address the particular issue and the environmental racism that actually exists in 159th. And that is what I would like to take on locally and even in Harrisburg as well.
Ms. Moton.
Repeat the question, please.
Certainly. Areas within the 159th district are environmental justice zones. These are neighborhoods or communities that have a large number of persons of color and or who live below the poverty line. Additionally, those living here experience a significantly lower quality of life because of problems created by environmental hazards, such as waste dumps and polluting industries. What programs and policies will you support and or initiate to make your district one where people will want to come, live, work, and play?
Yes, definitely. As far as Covanta and the excessive amount of trash that they receive as far as the square footage of the city, and they decided to put it right there. And the people in the city of Chester are affected by it more so than anyone else throughout Delaware County. But work with the EPA, with all of the entities, everyone that is, adding to what's, going on as far as what we eat, drink, etc., to make sure that the checks and balances that are in place, who's following up on them? Check and make sure that the permits and everything, that they are up to par. I suffer from an ailment because that's caused from the environment, and have had to see a specialist myself starting in 2009. Thank God, it was resolved. But the only reason that they can give me for what it was that I had was it was environmental. So I am 200% dedicated to doing something to stop from my grandchildren and others' children and children, so they don't have to endure what I had and continue to go through.
Ms. Moton,
Yes.
working people are finding they are paying more for childcare than they do for their monthly mortgage. What will you do to reduce the cost of quality care for children?
Reducing the cost of quality care, and quality care being what the key term. I do know that there are programs out there and that were established post-pandemic to aid in assisting, so that parents who during the pandemic, they were home, they had to be like the teachers, etc., with their children, but then they needed to go back to work. There are programs out there to assist and to help parents to pay for that. I have other programs that involve our seniors, and a lot of them, the different things that they do in the course of a day, and they go and pick up children, their grandchildren, but to expand that to be able to cover everyone throughout the 159, bridging a gap between the seniors and our younger individuals. And that would allow more parents to be able to maybe go to work without having to pay the expensive cost of childcare, knowing that maybe their child getting off the bus is actually going to make it home safely if they're latchkey children, but different things that, make the burden less on parents so that they can go and do, what they need to do to take care of their families.
Ms. Kazeem.
The first thing I would like to do as a state representative is really revisit the standard of cost living, the adjustment. And what I mean by that is really looking into exactly the amount that we're actually charging individuals. Secondly, it's also the line, the income level that we're actually putting in Harrisburg. So instead of us constantly looking at the gross that we know that they do, whether it's through childcare or through welfare, we know that those individuals that are making the gross, they're not even bringing that amount coming in. So revisiting that and making sure that we actually implementing exactly what they're bringing home can really help with the adjustment costs that they're paying for childcare that can come in as a supply through the state. And one of the things too with childcare is even helping with more resources for individuals that actually have children of needs too, because there are many children that may have special needs where they may not be able to just go to maybe their kid down the street, but may actually need more specialized services for them. And a lot of times it's hard for them to really be able to even afford those kind of care because it really costs more because of the same way the state is looking at their gross versus what they're bringing in as well. So if we can start looking at the cost of living and the adjustment that is put in Harrisburg and the way that we have those type of structure and standard deductions put in, I think that that specifically would help. And I know it would help a whole lot with many people being able to receive support from Harrisburg.
Next, Ms. Kazeem. Once elected, you should meet the needs of people regardless of their political party. What will you do to assure voters, be they Republican, Democratic, Independents, belonging to other parties or unaffiliated, that you will be inclusive and treat them with equity?
Well, first step, I wouldn't be asking anyone their party, especially as a state representative. I don't believe that that's appropriate. So my job to come in and do is to serve everyone. So the best way that I would go in respectfully is just simply just being who I am, introducing myself as a state rep, whatever needs that they have. If they come in, particularly in the office, if I'm meeting them at their neighborhood, in their house, if they need, any type of service and they're calling the phone, everyone would be treated with the same respect and also dignity. So we would not be justifying on who's who or what you believe in or your religion or base. That would particularly would not be done, particularly from us. I'm someone, like I said, I'm a public advocate and I fought for everyone and all people. And when it definitely comes to that, that's a no-go for me. So we wouldn't be concerned with the party. Everyone would be taken care of.
Thank you. Ms. Moton?
I agree. That's a form of discrimination. And anyone that knows me knows that I interact with everyone on a daily basis. And when I'm talking, meeting, greeting, and it doesn't matter where I am, asking someone their party, it doesn't matter. They are a person first. They are a human being. Whatever your need is need. Hurt is hurt, pain is pain. That does not matter. So again, addressing what has happened to this district, our 159th district, over the past 29 years of the Democratic policies and them omitting others who were not part of their party. No, we do not need more of that. We cannot go forward. And because the only way we can go forward as a district is together. So no, that's discrimination.
Now, Ms. Moton,
Yes.
holding government accountable is important to tax.
Excuse me, Roberta.
Yes.
Ms. Kazeem has a chip she wants to use.
Sorry. Ms.
Go ahead, Ms. Kazeem.
You had a chip. Would you like to add to that statement?
Yes, I just wanted to add that despite the policies and the views of the candidates or whoever is a state representative and what party that they belong to, sometimes that can come in the way of also the residents believing that they won't serve them. So I just want to make it clear that despite the policy or the views, is once again, it's all about human rights. So if someone walks in and they still need any service that needs to be done, that would be met.
Now, Ms. Moton,
Yes.
holding governments accountable is important to taxpayers. Federal legislation provided lots of money to help communities survive the recent pandemic. What will you do to make sure that the millions of dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act coming to Chester are spent to meet the real needs of your constituents and are not wasted?
I would continue to keep the lines of communication open with the receiver in the city of Chester, being that they are under receivership as far as, well, both the school district and the city, itself, but keep the lines of communication open and transparency, seeing what is going where, hold people accountable, hold me accountable. But for every dollar, cent, whatever it is. And again, with my background in the multi-million-dollar company in the Midwest, it's my position spanned 2 states, Illinois and Indiana. So that was something that in my role, I had to do to make sure that everything was accountable and accounted for. Every deposit made it to the bank. At the end of the day, everything balanced out the way that it should balance out, but hold everyone accountable. We can't just send the money and keep throwing the money out there and believe that, what is going to get to those who need it and that it's going to be used properly.
Ms. Kazeem.
Keep communication with the Congress, since we're talking about on the federal side, and also just each and every elected official that's particularly in the city of Chester, and also the current receiver. The main important thing is also making sure that I will, and I know I will, keep the community involved, making sure that every aspect of every conversation, every community needs to be involved in every type of matter that happens when it comes to the federal dollars. Me working with the receiver and also the elected officials and also the Congress is to really revisit the master recreation plan to see what exactly the need is and to see where the dollars are supposed to go to and to see if there's any loopholes, particularly in the city of Chester, to see if there's any other dollars or resources that are in Harrisburg that can be able to fill in that gap. So we're not using those dollars, to make sure that we are being transparent for what exactly it was needed for. So that is my biggest plan. And I know that that is something that I will definitely do.
Ms. Moton, your chip.
Yes, and I just wanted to add that, yes, we were speaking on the city of Chester specifically, but I know and I believe that the limit as far as help, we have to remove the income limit as far as help, because when the pandemic hit, we all were sent home. We all suffered from it. But with the help that is out there, it's limited. And if your income is a certain level, those individuals and the other entities aren't receiving well-needed, necessary finances and help that they need to keep them out of bankruptcy.
All right. Now, Ms. Kazeem, the 159th District, as you have both mentioned, has many challenges, with crime being one of them. What measures will you advocate to combat violence, specifically gun violence, and keep the kids off the streets?
Particularly after doing a survey between many different municipalities located in the 159th, the biggest concern for many of the residents was the lack of recreation. And those particular activities and those particular sports and those particular arts and crafts and also the programs in the schools all plays a factor in why we see the crimes the way that it is. I will particularly continue to advocate for more of those resources, for more of those programs, to be able to build more of those YWCAs, to be able to show the kids more opportunity, bringing in a lot of those unions as well for jobs, to be able to bring in more of those training skills in the schools, can also be able to change the children's mindset too. A lot of times too, one of the things that I do is go knock doors. I check in on the parents, I check in on the children, a lot of the ones that are not really attending, trying to figure out where they at, seeing if there's any lack of barriers inside of the homes, and try to find ways that I can help, whether it's through food, whether it's through housing issues, whether a parent really just needs some type of counseling support, and maybe they're just really going through something and not able to care for the child at that point in time. So all of those different resources and programs is a lot of ways that I can do locally. And definitely in Harrisburg, just making sure that we're focusing around gun safety and policies that would be able to make sure that we're saving the lives of our children and especially our residents, particularly in the 159th and across Pennsylvania.
Ms. Moton.
Definitely, you know what, there isn't anything for the children to do throughout the 159th district. As far as crime, sadly, yesterday I attended a funeral that was held in the city of Chester. As a parent, grandparent, I am tired of attending these funerals. At the same time, I would light up the city of Chester like a Christmas tree, meaning in areas that are dark. Say, for example, 291. Make it brighter. It's harder for things that should not be happening to be done when it's well lit. There are a lot of motion sensor lights within the city of Chester, whereas unless a car is driving down the street, those lights do not come on. So for a human being, and I've walked down those streets, it will not sense a person, and it won't come on until a vehicle were to drive down the street. And I grew up in Philadelphia. I had never, ever in my life heard of that being done for a city. The state police, getting them to come to help, to assist. Again, when we're talking about a city that is in receivership, which is potentially maybe going towards bankruptcy, everyone who's getting paid from the city, police, fire, EMTs, they're going to start looking for other jobs, because if your paycheck is on the line and you think you're not going to get paid, services are going to be cut more and more and more.
Now, Ms. Moton, recent court...
Excuse me, Roberta. Ms. Kazeem.
Ms. Kazeem.
Yes, sorry. I knew I only had a short period of time when I first answered. I just wanted to add in education. We really, really, really need to start investing and supporting our public schools, our education system, period, of where our children actually even attend schools. Really more helping around emotional support, and we can start investing in our guidance counselors, our paraprofessionals. That, in fact, would actually help our children as well when they're actually going back out into the community around mental health support and also our gun violence interrupter. I'm being myself a gun violence interrupter. I know the importance of having trauma informed in our schools and also in our communities to be able to help the lack of the gun violence. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Moton, Recent court decisions and legislative action have left many in our state and nation concerned about individual rights, particularly those of women. What is your stance on women's reproductive rights?
My stance is that, right now in the state of Pennsylvania, I am happy that the Supreme Court stopped legislating from the bench. I don't want it left up to 9 individuals in robes, nor 203 in Harrisburg. I say put it on the ballot and let the people of Pennsylvania show up and vote on it.
Ms. Kazeem.
I believe in everyone having their own individual rights. In other words, my body, my choice. I believe in a woman choosing what she chooses, he or she, what they want to do with their own body and their own reproductive rights. And I do not believe in taking away from that at all.
Next question, Ms. Kazeem.
Roberta?
Miss Moton, I am sorry.
That's okay, because I just want to piggyback on that thus far, it's already passed the House and the Senate as far as an amendment being placed on the ballot for the citizens of the state of Pennsylvania to vote on it. That question, that is. So show up and vote.
Ms. Kazeem, would you like to respond?
Once again, the constituents does have a voice. And from what I've heard, my body, my choice. And that's what the people want.
And vote.
All right, now, Ms. Kazeem, the 159th District's location along the Delaware River makes it a prime spot for importing and exporting. Currently, this is particularly true for natural gas from the shale regions of Pennsylvania. What is your position on the proposed development of liquefied natural gas facilities that would supercool natural gas, keep it at high pressure, and transport it by such means as pipeline, boat, train, or truck from the 159th District?
The 159th District already have a lot of different pipelines and incineration and a lot going on when it comes to the environment. The last thing we need is extra pollution going on in the air or even locally in our communities that would actually affect the health of our residents, especially our seniors and our children. So as far as my stance on the liquefied natural gas, I would honestly say that I'm not in support because of the health risks that would actually plays a factor. So for me as a mother and as someone that cares about her family, I'm very concerned about the health and the needs of the residents of the 159. That is my priority.
Ms. Moton.
As I first stated previously about my own environmental issues that I have had to overcome, I am concerned also, but at the same time, I would just need to listen to both sides and to weigh the plus, the minuses, because there are some that say, those are jobs, well-needed jobs that we need to aid in revitalizing the neighborhood. But at the same time, we don't want to do it at the expense of human beings and human life.
You're muted, Roberta.
This is a two-part question for Ms. Moton.
Oh.
Many people question the security of our voting system and question the results of elections. The Pennsylvania legislature, which you will join if elected, is taking action to change voter registration processes. They also want to add voter identification as a requirement for casting a ballot. First, do you believe elections are secure and our vote counts are accurate? And secondly, what is your opinion on these changes or others you might suggest?
First is secure, and the second is changes. I am a person that I never missed an election since I was able to vote. And I understand that we have new machines and there's a new process that is involved. And, things will happen, errors will occur. Do I feel as though today they are as secure as they should be or need to be? No. And you mentioned something about changes. Did you ask me about ID? Am I getting that correct? As far as any type of identification, you can go around and ask anyone, name 2 things that you do not need ID for. They can't. There's only one. We use ID everywhere we go. You can't go to the doctors without identification. I had to pick up medication from the pharmacy. I had to show him my identification, but it's in every aspect of our lives. So if it would make everyone be more a part of this process, feel better that, my vote actually does count. Having some form of measure to ensure that for the American people, I say yes.
Ms. Kazeem.
I would like to notate here in the state of Pennsylvania, from my recollection, it did not seem as though that this particular question regarding ID even became a problem until 2020. So as far as me go, I do trust the process here in Pennsylvania. I have not heard of any issues or concerns regarding any type of process or anything being, fraudulent prior to 2020. So I do trust the process. I do also know that there are barriers as to why people may not have IDs, such as being homeless, may not be able to afford the payment. There are many questions. In fact, I think we do need to expand on even voters' rights, making sure that we do have where we can do same day, where we can be able to say, hey, someone can be able to go in even on a weekend and vote, because a lot of people that are not even able to make it because of work, or especially those CNAs that I've talked to that have to do doubles on election day, not being able to make it out to vote. And their vote felt as though that they did not matter because they weren't able to make it because they had to make ends meet. So I think we actually need to expand. And once again, I do not believe that that was an issue until 2020. So I trust the process.
Ms. Moton.
Yes, I try the complaints that I received, the information and phone calls on from were actually from those working the polls within the city of Chester, who called me and gave me specific details as to what they witnessed. And as far as identification goes, the only argument that I've ever heard of those being against having ID for in order to vote is because Black, brown people do not have any identification. We're on this Zoom right now with individuals running for state house that fall into that category. For one, I am insulted that this is the only basis for argument against having identification.
Ms. Kazeem.
I can actually testify about the fact that in particular communities and Black or brown is not to say that everyone may not have ID, but I was also that individual at a point in time when I was also homeless. I was not able to afford a little bit of money just to be able to get a state ID for me to even get a job. So just imagine someone telling me to go out and vote because they want to fight for me for jobs. So that actually can happen, and it has happened. And again, until we be able to fix those inequities and those barriers, these are the things that should be somewhat still open. And as far as the city of Chester goes, I believe that there's corruption and things that transpires everywhere. But there's also lines, and Delaware County has worked very hard on making sure that they put people in place to make sure that people can be able to call in and complain and send even the DA's office out if those things and crimes are being committed. Thank you.
I would like to have one last question before we have our closing statements. And this is it. If that magic wand was again in your power, what would be the one thing, and this again is to, let's see, Ms. Kazeem, you have that magic wand in your power. what would be the one thing in the 159th House District that you would never want to change?
There's one thing I could say I would never want to change is the residents that actually is in the 159th. I love talking to the residents. The residents that are in the 159th, almost pretty much majority of them have been longtime residents, and they all play a factor here in this particular community, from being small business owners to educators to being even on the nonprofit side to even having churches here. So I can honestly say the community itself is one thing I wouldn't want to change.
Ms. Moton.
I was going to say the sense of community. Is it? The sense of community.
Thank you. Since you answered that so quickly, I'll give you one more good question.
Should it take longer?
Ms. Moton,
Yes.
this ongoing concern of residents in our district, in fact, the American Lung Association rates us as an F. You know, trash and sewage are being burned, and we have truck, bus, cars, and jet planes spreading their exhaust over our area because we're so congested. Emissions from industrial facilities increase exposures to these toxic and chemical particles. What will you do when elected to improve the air quality we breathe?
Again, stay on top of the EPA and every other organization whose job it is to, one, ensure that the precautions that need to be in place, that they are in place as far as the inspections go. Being a part of the community, being a state representative, a legislator, knowing this about the community and that it cannot accept any more pollution than what is already present. We can't allow the permits to go forth to allow them to enter in. So fight hard to make sure that, you know, we don't add more to the problems that we already have. And for the existing ones, they need to be able to reduce emissions, omissions, dioxins, everything that they're throwing, you know, out there. You can't collect, you can't be the largest medical waste facility in the United States. You need to do less as far as what you're bringing in here to burn, and you need to do more to prevent it from coming out here and affecting everyone who lives in this area.
Ms. Kazeem?
Yes, I think the first step is being able to identify that even as state reps, we may not know it all and know it everything. So I think the first step is working amongst the grassroots that actually fight this every single day and has been fighting it for years. I think being able to get educated more so on what exactly the cause is, being able to identify what each thing means and how that actually impacts, whether it's negative or on a positive level for the residents. So as a state rep, that's what I'm willing to do, is actually sit down and hear and work amongst those grassroots that are actually fighting this fight every day. Secondly, as I stated earlier, green infrastructure. The more that we can actually start progressing and moving forward towards that direction locally and even in Harrisburg, we can actually start to see those things that we're talking about, the emission or even the particular incinerator that's still going on, can actually start being reduced. So once again, it's just advocating, working with those grassroots, speaking about it, holding them accountable, and being more than anything educated on it and finding the solutions moving forward to be able to get us more green and progress.
Roberta, you're muted.
I'd like to now tell you it is time for our closing statements. Each candidate will be able to conclude with a 2-minute closing statement. And first to give our closing statement is Ms. Kazeem.
I just want to thank League of Women Voters again for your line of service and even having us here today for this particular forum. As I stated earlier, I'm a public advocate. But even professionally, I have worked around many residents who have suffered and even lost family members due to gun violence. I've worked in the healthcare industry as a caregiver, as a intervention, as a gun violence interrupter, and even around children that have special needs and even adults. And through my line of work, I've really seen so many disparities, which actually perverted into me being an advocate and fighting for so many injustices. And I just want to really say that even with me going through that fight, I've experienced it myself from being a teen mom. I know what it was like trying to still stuck in a high school, trying to have a child, trying to really make sure that I stay educated, to actually seeing the disparities. We're going with a well-funded school district to coming out of a low-funded school district and seeing the difference in the opportunities that were there. I was able to actually experience homelessness as well. I've seen the difference on what available resources was out there for me and what wasn't. And I know that the fight, I know what is needed. I know the resources that we still yet have lacked that needs to be put in place. I've listened and I've heard the cries of the residents each and every single day just through being on the front line. And I hear them. And the people want more. The people of the 159th, they said we want better and we deserve better, and that they do. So as your next state representative, I'm here to stand to say that no more excuses over justice, and to actually stop playing politics and start governing here in the 159th and for all Pennsylvanians across this Commonwealth. And on November 8th, I ask you to go out and vote for Carol Kazeem, vote for change, vote for someone that has been there on the front line with you, fighting for you, fighting with you, who actually hears and cares for you. And that I will deliver for the 159th. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Moton.
You know, before the pandemic, there were many challenges that we faced as a district in the 159th Legislative District. After the pandemic, there are more so. We have a long list of needs, of must have, must do within the 159th Legislative District. Everyone deserves the opportunity to be able to work and to take care of your families. Our children deserve quality public school education. They deserve to be able to go to and from school safely, play outside safely. Our seniors who want to sit out on their porches, they deserve to be able to do that again. And again, we need to have our freedom to choose what is best for ourselves and our families. I have the experience. I've worked out in the private sector, managing on multiple levels. I have a team that is ready to get started on day one. Our issues that we have, they have to be addressed on day one. I am ready, willing, more than able to do that. We need change. November the 8th is election day. That is the day that we all have a voice and an opportunity to go out and to choose the course and the direction of where we want to go and what we see for future generations in the 159th Legislative District. Again, the past 29 years, the policies have failed us all, and I say change. I say more. I say vote for change. Vote for more. Vote for better. Vote in Moton at the polls. See you there November the 8th.
Now, on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I wish to thank you, candidates, for your participation this evening, and to you, our viewers, for watching. We also want to say thank you to the behind-the-scenes people who help make this operate and keep me on task. If you wish to find out more about those candidates, these who were here tonight, and others who will be on the ballot, please check our nonpartisan vote411.org site. It's the one-stop spot for finding everything you need to know about the elections. Remember to vote. Be an informed voter. And your vote is your voice. It's your future and that of your children. Thank you so much.